Toyota, Australia, king of mediocrity, leader of the market, most boring car maker in the world, as voted by me year on year, looking down the barrel of a $2 billion barbed wire enema as of this morning, skewered in the manner of the finest shish kebab by little more than a federal court and, of course, its own disgraceful design deficiency, with a little dishonesty on the side. Do save me a front row seat for that conference call back to the land of the rising sun. Like, send $2 billion, stat, otherwise we'll all drown. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, and I get new cars cheap for buyers here in Australia. Website for that, obviously, or you can just click the card that's up there now, dude, or don't, like I care. Tiffany's just zipping up the latex jumpsuit, and Toyota's getting reamed monumentally. Like, how bad can a day get after that? The federal court has found in favour of shitbox Hilux, Fortuna and Prado owners. Prado owners, dude, that's already like losing a testicle, even if you're a chick. Personal opinion, and nothing wrong with that, incidentally. I lose things all the time, for example. Like, it'll grow back, dude, when you buy a Land Cruiser. The vehicles in question here were sold between October 2015 and April 2020. So, if all eligible 2.8 diesel Toyota shitbox owners step forward with their account numbers and their BSBs at Port Arms, senior executive misleading cockheads at Toyota could be looking at begging Akio Toyoda himself for more than $2 billion. Sayonara performance bonuses. It's been emotional. This is about two things, okay? The design deficiency and them being misleading shitheads about it. Toyota, of course, has claimed that it has always been a knight in friggin' shining armour throughout all of this unpleasantness, despite my recollection that for some years they just ignored the existence of this defect, at least publicly. They even sent a tiny aftermarket servicing shop, Berrima Diesel in the Southern Highlands of New South Shitsville, a very pompous and cranky-sounding letter, in my opinion, drafted by their in-house asshole lawyers, after Berrima Diesel dudes had a spray about this defect on Facebook. The judge in this case, Justice Lee, found that Toyota had in fact acted like A-grade misleading corporate cocks. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but I do wish he had put it that way. Instead, he actually said, Toyota Motor Company Australia also admits that it engaged in the omissions conduct, including failing to disclose the core defect and defect consequences to prospective purchasers. Goodness me! Dishonesty on the new car showroom floor. Who knew? I do hope it doesn't catch on, because that would make buying a new car a confronting and somewhat stressful experience for almost everyone, instead of the relaxing, upbeat and above all fair and equitable process experienced by most Australian new car buyers today. I do love it when courts make these determinations fair dinkum, because it affords even inherently timid, reserved commentators who really just want to be friends with everyone, such as me, the opportunity to give it to those assholes with both barrels, and deservedly so in this case. Selling vehicles known to be defective to proud, unsuspecting RC bogans, sons and daughters of Anzacs, whose deeply patriotic objective was little more than just to buy an unbreakable but defective Hilux, and then stop by the corporate welfare limpets at ARB, overload the vehicle by procuring one of everything, basically, and make the pilgrimage through the fan-forced inner circles of hell, also known as Central Australia, and finally get to Australia's Mecca, or Dingo Piss Creek, as it is properly known on Wikipedia. Preferably with a giant acoustically transparent aluminium chitoir in tow, full of one's own effluent, as is tradition, ideally, because there's nothing proud, patriotic, Aussie effluent enjoys more than sightseeing in the frickin' outback. Oi, oi, oi. The conduct in marketing the vehicles as being of acceptable quality was misleading. Justice Lee there again, JL, highlighting the firmness of Toyota's grasp on morality, seemingly. It must be so terrible for senior executive Toyota Cox to awaken this morning, confronted by the unpalatable proposition that consumer laws actually apply to them too. Like, dude, when did that happen? I thought that was just for toasters. And should you consider getting your arsehole lawyers to write to me, dear Toyota, concerning my allegation that you are Cox, A, substantial truth, B, personal opinion, and C, the cock is a proud animal, a direct descendant of the T-Rex, ruler of the hen house, and he gets all the chicks. You got a problem with that? Even worse, perhaps. Justice Lee appears to be ruining Toyota's reputation for legendary reliability, a myth upon which they have dropped billions of dollars over the years. Potential customers are going to hear about Toyota's inherent long-term anti-consumer cockheadery and this disgraceful design deficiency, even in media which Toyota strives to control through the monolithic prism of dropping the big advertising bucks, such as Rupert's Puppets and Costello's Cockheads. Oh, what a feeling. So, essentially, the DPF in these shitboxes was designed by the intern, seemingly, and knocked me down with a feather. It failed over and friggin' over. Yes. My sense of it is the fifth injector just locked itself open in some cases and burnt the shit out of the DPF's guts, or it locked itself closed and the DPF just clogged up. Roll of the dice either way. The vehicle then made like James Bond's Aston Martin in smokescreen mode, only without pussy galore in the passenger's seat. Instead, fuel economy and resale value jumped headlong into the crapper. And Toyota failed to acknowledge that this problem existed on the showroom floor, even while it strived feverishly to do the absolute minimum required to absolve itself of any responsibility. In a statement, Toyota failed to acknowledge the existence of objective reality, seemingly. At every step, we believe that we have implemented customer-focused and technically grounded remedies to resolve customers' concerns. That's quite clever. Borderline PR genius right there. And they are awesome at bullshit. They really are. Quote, "We believe whatever." The genius bit about we believe is that one's beliefs don't have to be based on evidence or facts. It's so liberating simply to believe this or that. You can believe the sky is red if you want, like anything goes with belief. You can believe that the earth is flat or that fluoride in the drinking water is neurotoxic. Some beliefs, of course, make you a nut, but that's allowed, dude. Like, subscribing to a nutbag belief is not a felony. However, when I am your Prime Minister in roughly 2025 or 26, it friggin' will be, I intend to introduce the Evidence-Based Belief Act, mainly to free up all that real estate in our congested cities currently occupied by religious institutions. Like, believe what you want, dude, but just remember, heaven for the climate, hell for the company. It's a choice, and doubtless I will see you down there. I always wanted to interview Satan in any case. Toyota even went further, angrily threatening to commit an act of careful consideration in the first degree before speaking on this again. And I have to say that when my kids were roughly 15 or so, they acted like that a lot. Toyota will carefully consider the initial trial judgment before making any further comment. Well, perhaps the High Court should free up a few days in its weighty calendar to consider some good old-fashioned, preposterous corporate bullshit in due course. In my view, they should make it a double or nothing kind of thing. Turn it into a show. Australia's Got Reaming or something. So what does this actually mean for you if you're an owner of one of these shitboxes, okay? Well, every good class action needs a lead plaintiff who acts as a kind of cover girl for the swimsuit calendar edition. And in this case, the bathing suit and the bronzer is worn by a dude named Ken Williams. Seen there, brandishing a little of Toyota's deep commitment to carbon neutrality. Justice Lee found that Toyota's underlying DPF shitfuckery resulted in a 17.5% diminution in value, which in the case of cover girl Ken amounts to about $7,500. Cover girl Ken's wig-wearing barristers, I'm only presuming that they still do that, it's so dignified after all, and yet oddly contemporary in this age of gender fluidity. Anyway, they also persuaded the judge to award covergirl Ken more than $4,500 in damages for lost income, presumably because Ken was unable to work while he was being expertly fucked about by Toyota. Plus, an uplifting cherry on top of about $1,000 for paying excess GST and stamp duty. All up, covergirl Ken is looking at more than $13,000. Individual mileage among class action litigants will vary, of course, but there are 264,170 vehicles comprising the class action. So, dude, just EFTing the funds is going to require some significant person power at Toyota headquarters, isn't it? A dude you've probably never heard of, named Simon Burnett from Balance Legal Capital, told the ABC that the case was an excellent example of how pure-hearted, altruistic businesses such as Balance Legal Capital, which funded the class action, they play a critical and not to mention Mother Teresa-like role in, quote, facilitating justice for ordinary people. The world really is composed of butterflies and flowers in spring, is it not? I am paraphrasing just a little bit there, vis-a-vis what Mr. Burnett might actually have said to reporters, but I am fairly sure Mr. Burnett's suit of armour is quite reflective in the visible spectrum when he steps in front of the mirror to inspect it prior to speaking to the press. My sense of all of this is that class actions are part big business and part informed roll of the dice. It seems that class action law firms troll through the tailings of society's turd mines. They're down here with us journalists, slightly below the pimps and drug dealers, but above the politicians and PR operatives. When you get down here, I think you'll find it is quite stratified. When they find a nice juicy nugget of unmined A-grade turd, comprising thousands of victims or something, they put together a prospectus and they slut it out to various legal venture capitalists who look at the chances of winning and the size of the potential pie before they slide 3 or 4 dozen Samsonite check-in suitcases full of used non-sequential $100 bills under the table and the lawyers get cracking. Then, if the judge rocks in favour of the plaintiffs, they skim a juicy ROI off the top altruistically. The lawyers get paid and then they distribute the crumbs that remain to the victims. Justice for ordinary people is certainly not cheap. So, I'm pretty sure there will be a significant celebration at Balance Legal Capital sometime soon, but I'm not exactly sure how much of that rapture will actually orbit the facilitation of justice for ordinary people. In any case, a man can never own a sufficiently large yacht crewed by freshly waxed high-class, let's call them, personal assistants. Matt McKenzie, who is a partner at Gilbert plus Tobin Lawyers, because obviously a friggin' ampersand would have made them look literate but somewhat less hip, He wrote this highly confidential email to class action participants at about 7:30 last night. Disclosure on pain of death kind of thing. Lawyers hate it when journalists like me do this, right? But they have to suck it up upliftingly. It leaked into my inbox milliseconds after it was sent, and in it, Mr. Mackenzie advised the judgment and the 13 grand plus change payout to cover girl Ken, and he added, next steps. The class action is listed for a case management hearing on the 22nd of April 2022, at which time the court may make orders to give effect to the judgment. Yeah, that impossibly delicious moment. I'm already really looking forward to that. Putting the reamer in the quill. It's always one of the more satisfying parts of any worthwhile machining operation. It's the engagement of the Morse taper, mainly. $2 billion is certainly a big number, even for a car maker such as Toyota. But the biggest victory here could be due to the impact of the ruling on Toyota's reputation. Hilux in particular being the top-selling vehicle in the nation, and also critical for tradies and bogans alike. That's the real punch behind this knockout kind of court case. It really is. Heaven forbid a determination such as this might force the king of mediocrity to get its corpulent ass up off the throne and actually lift its game to the point where customer respect is elevated above the consumer law compliance threshold.